Good morning to our esteemed taxpayers. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. Thank you, taxpayers who have responded. Asanteni sana. A warm welcome to our esteemed taxpayers and colleagues who have joined us this morning. We are glad that to our esteemed taxpayers. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. Have responded positively, and you can see that the numbers are looking good. Thank you, taxpayers who have responded. Asanteni sana. Our session today. A warm welcome to our esteemed taxpayers and colleagues to make the introduction this morning. We are glad that our esteemed taxpayers. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. Have responded positively, taxes and you can see that the numbers are looking good. Thank you, taxpayers who have responded. And our migration a warm welcome to our esteemed taxpayers. We are talking about the migration. I proceed to make the introduction this morning. We are glad I am to our esteemed taxpayers. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. Have responded positively, taxes and you can see that the numbers are looking good. Thank you, taxpayers who have responded. Our migration. A warm welcome to our esteemed taxpayers. We are talking about the migration. We proceed to make the introduction on the other members. We are glad I am our esteemed taxpayers. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. Almighty God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for enabling us to come together with our esteemed taxpayers and for us to have a very valuable and very fruitful discussion surrounding the legacy system migration to iTAX. We pray, Lord, that as we start, you'll be with us. We welcome you to guide us, to give us your wisdom, and to help us so that at the end of it all, we will give glory and honor to your name and we'll have a successful conclusion. We pray all this trusting and believing in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. So, with us this morning, we have our expert coming from the corporate taxpayer account management division. She goes by the name Rose Kolum. She will be the one who will do the presentation. Karibu sana, Rose. And we are also gladly joined by Doreen. Doreen is our sign language interpreter. We are keen on having inclusivity and ensuring there's as wide coverage as possible to all members of our society so that no one is left out and we are all able to engage constructively and to the benefit of all who are concerned. I also have the taxpayer education team with us this morning, members who are represented here, including Joseph Mashaga and Mercy Chemtingen. And we are all on board to ensure that this forum is successful as expected, and that we will take the shortest time possible, so that at the end of it all, we can give you a chance now to use the chat box and the dialogue, the Q&A dialogue box, to interact with us and give us your feedback, your observations, your concerns, or any queries that are relevant to the topic that is under discussion this morning. So without much ado, we proceed to start off our presentation. And karibuni sana. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'll now take this opportunity to welcome Rose Kolum. Please take the stage and start off the sensitization. Karibuni. Thank you. Rose Kolum, if you can hear me, we can now proceed to start off the presentation. Rose Kolum, are you able to hear me? Please confirm that you can be. Apologies to our taxpayers. We are having a technical hitch with our audio. Please allow us a minute to resolve this and get back. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rose. We can now hear you clearly.
Oh, great. That's great. I'm so sorry for the connectivity issues. I had a problem with my mic, but apologies for that. But now I think we can be able to proceed.
Yes, Rose,
Okay.
right away.
Okay. Okay. So welcome everyone on board. We are going to be discussing on DTD, migrated legacy balances, which is our new baby in the block at KRA. Maybe even before I go far, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Rose Kolum. I am at CTAMD, which is Corporate Taxpayer Account Management Division, debts, and I'm overseeing these migrated balances. So as I've said earlier, this is something that happened in the month of June. And that's why I'm saying it is a new baby in the block. And we are supposed to nurse this baby very well and see this baby succeed as intended. So straight to the point, I'm going to be discussing on giving a brief history of where we've come from to where we are today. And so from the screen, I'm hoping my screen can be seen. In the year 1992, between 92 and 2015, we had this legacy system, which was being used at KRA for all the purposes of filing returns and making payments, and all the transactions were happening through the legacy system until 2015. And from 2007 to 2015, we had ITMS. So, and then from after ITMS, we now migrated to iTAX. So iTAX started in 2014, and I think the first return in iTax was done in 2015, and that is where we have most of the challenges because of that transition period. So that is a brief history of where we've come from. And so early this year, 2024, KRA embarked on a mass migration of legacy system transactions to iTax system for completeness of taxpayers' records, for them to benefit from the tax amnesty on interest and penalties, and ultimate retirement of legacy system. So we actually, at KRA, this migration had to happen because most of the penalties and interests accrued over time because of maybe the filing late or non-filing or error, system errors. So the commissioner gave an initiative so that the taxpayers would benefit. And so this initiative came in form of amnesty, which again happened. And I'm sure you are all aware it was covering up to December 2022. That was the period. And so this migration was actually had to happen for the taxpayers who are involved to be able to benefit from the amnesty. And so we are grateful that that amnesty happened.
Rose, interjection, please. Yeah, your slides were not moving. Now it is all right.
Yes, okay, yeah, I was actually struggling with the slides. So, okay, so this is the progress, the process that happened or that took place. There was quite a lot preparation of the ground for everything new. We all remember, even when we are preparing to plant something, there is still preparation of the ground, tilling of the land before you put your seed. So there's a lot of preparation that had to go, had to be put in place for this migration to happen. One being preparation of a platform where migrated data will be posted to, that is the iTax legacy accounts. There was posting of all unposted payments, which happened in ITMS, or iTax hanging payments, or other manual payments. And then cleaning of the now complete ledger, that is unconfirmed assessments, excess waivers, payments without return, posting refunds paid, additional tax or additional assessments which were not which were not traced in the system. And then number 4, granting taxpayers who had paid all principal taxes amnesty. So all that, the first 3 had to happen before this amnesty happened on number 4. And then apply migration rules, which it was actually done. And finally, migration happened. That is as per 6, final migration to iTax account and amnesty, which only affected the principal tax. So what was not migrated was interest and penalties, because that one is still subject to adjustments later. And why, again, this was not migrated is because the intention or the main objective was for the taxpayers to be able to benefit from amnesty. Next. So next slide, please. So even as I wait for the next, I think there's a challenge for the slide to move, but as we are working on it, kindly be patient. But so even when this migration has happened, as I mentioned, there was some groundwork that had to take place before the migration, and eventually this migration took place in the month of June. And as I've told you, the migration happened on principal taxes only, and it was only debt principal which was migrated. Okay. And also it affected APINs which have either APINs that were transacting, but someone with an APIN without with employment income only were not affected. It only affected those who had some other source of income other than employment. And so how we were able to pick out on that, if you have paid any, you're an APIN and you have an installment, you paid an installment tax, or you have like VAT obligation registered under your APIN, then those are the APINs that were migrated, and also the PPINs. So what we are doing currently is that there was a notice that was sent to the taxpayers again in the month of July. So there was a public notice which was shared out there by the commissioner. And so all these migrated balances, there was a rider to it to show that like this is not an assessment. The migrated balances were not assessments. They were not demand notices. That's why they are not supposed to be objected to, or you cannot appeal against the migrated balances. In a nutshell, what actually ought to happen is that the moment you receive these migrated balances, you are supposed to confirm if that is the correct position. If that is not the correct position, then you are supposed to respond. And there's an email that was created for all our taxpayers to be able to respond through. That is DTD legacy support at kra.go.ke. So all the taxpayers, once you receive these migrated balances, that is the channel you're supposed to respond through. So that if we migrated balances that you are not in agreement with, you are not supposed to go the appeal way, or you are not supposed to object to it. But you're supposed to now respond to us and say, these migrated balances are not correct, or you are not in agreement with it, either in totality or partially. So you're supposed to check through your records and furnish us now with the records to show that now this is the correct position. So you're supposed to scan your documents and share with us through that DTD legacy support at kra.go.ke. Or alternatively, you're supposed to go to our nearest TSO, tax service office, and you can present your documents there. If it is a payment that was not captured, then you're supposed to say, I made this payment, but it was not captured by ourselves, KRA. So, and this is the payment I made. This is the RTGS. This is the bank advice slip. Just provide a proof to show that that payment actually you paid, but we did not capture. So we will now engage in a conversation and agree. If it is a payment, we will also now be able to do a submission, confirm with our finance that that money hit the commissioner's account. And after that, after confirming, then we should be able to capture the payment. Then that will no longer be a debt. it will now be, the status will be 0 because the payment will have been made. So once this migration, so the post-migration taxpayer support framework is structured as follows. So this is now, once the migration has happened, this is now where we are. So the migrated ledger balances are subject to adjustments based on availability of additional information, documents not previously factored in while arriving at final migrated balances. So that if you have any additional information which we could have missed out at the time of migrating these balances, then it is your opportunity as a taxpayer to come and tell us, okay, Commissioner, this is what you left out, and I have this information with me. So share with us that information, then we should be able to adjust accordingly. So, and for this migrated balances, some rider over here, LTO, MTO, and PSD, taxpayers will be supported in their own TSOs from end to end. So you will be facilitated from the beginning to the very end, like write your documents, anything relating to migrated legacy balances. If you are a taxpayer at LTO, Large Taxpayers Office, or Medium Taxpayers Office, or Public Sector Division, then you are supposed to take your documents there. And at least right now, I'm happy to report that it's been devolved. The LTO and MTO have been devolved, so you can be able to access these offices maybe from where the region where you are. So for taxpayers in Nairobi, that is now east of Nairobi, south of Nairobi, north of Nairobi, west of Nairobi, the support will be done through a centralized team at JKUAT Towers, Nairobi, to enable fast tracking of the resolution process and avoid disrupting current work at TSOs. However, if you are in, say, Samia, you can still go through our Samia office. You don't have to come directly to JKUAT Towers. And at JKUAT Towers, the legacy migration team are based on 10th floor of JKUAT Towers, which was initially called ICA building. So if you are from Samia, you can still reach out to the nearest office. You will be facilitated in terms of, they will confirm what your issue is and then guide you on what the documents, additional documents that may be required for that purpose. Then you will be able to furnish them with those additional documents. After that, they will be sent to JKUAT Towers 10th floor. Or alternatively, you can make your way to JKUAT Towers 10th floor and you will be facilitated. Same thing to cases that are in the regions. You will be facilitated from the nearest TSO. You present your documents there and your issue. So the supporting documents or any additional information that you will require, you will present at the nearest TSO, our tax service office, and then a debt officer should be able to help you there. And from there, having confirmed and agreed on when everything is at, all the required documents have been attached, then that is the time they will be sent. If the documents are bulk, they'll be sent through courier services, or if they are not bulk, then they can upload on the email that I mentioned earlier, DTD legacy support at kra.go.ke. So that's what I've mentioned for TSOs outside Nairobi. And all point number 5, all missing payments will be captured at Kitambi head office. It's called Taxpayer Account Unit, or abbreviated as TAU, Times Tower 2nd floor. Upon validation of payment by Finance Division to enhance required controls, the escalation will be through the taxpayer TSO. So this is something that has been ongoing. It's not anything new. So anything relating to payments, then it has to come through the nearest TSO or where your PIN administration is. Then we have iShare platform, which is internal. A debt officer should be able to review your documents, and after reviewing the documents and confirming that it was a payment issue, then the officer will do a submission through a prescribed template and put it on a platform called iShare. And after putting it on iShare, then the same officer should be able to map it to tax account unit, TAU, whereby the manager there will be able to share, review those documents and share with our finance team. And after the finance team have confirmed, as I had said earlier, having confirmed the payment came, then that payment will be captured in your ledger. Hence, now we close that case at that point. So the credit balances will be available for utilization by taxpayer as per Section 47 of Tax Procedures Act 2015. Taxpayer will require to request for utilization. That is now refund. If you have credit balances or overpayments, then having validated the credit position, which will be done by our compliance team, then the taxpayer can apply for a refund. Taxpayers without any concerns on the debit balances migrated are expected to make arrangements to pay the outstanding taxes immediately to avoid accruing further interest. So if as a taxpayer, the migrated debit balances, you have you are okay with it and you confirm that it is actually a debt, then without wasting much time, you will be saving yourself a lot by making the payment, so that now you save yourself accrual of interest that occur every month. So you are just advised, generate a PRN, then go ahead and make the payments. If the payments are bulk and you are experiencing cash flow challenges, then you can agree on a payment plan so that you make your payments in installments and be able to reduce your debit balances until you clear. But if you are in a position to pay in one installment, then you are encouraged to go ahead and clear the debts so that now your ledger will read zero balances. And that case will be closed at that point. Okay, now validation. Credit balances to be utilized as per Section 47 I had mentioned earlier. So this is the breakdown of the same. VAT returns filed in both systems and refund applied in both. So we have such instances whereby at the onset of iTAX, a taxpayer maybe had not migrated to iTAX. So you file your return in legacy, and then now you pay your maybe you again file return in iTax. So if it is an overpayment, the risk is there if you have applied for refund in both, in the two systems. So you will be entitled for a refund only one. You cannot have both because that will be double payment. So VAT refunds paid and not posted in legacy. And then VAT refunds applied and not processed in legacy. Amnesty period 2001 to 2004 with migrated credits. or nil with huge installments, stroke balance of tax. So credits claimed in first return in iTAX for corporation tax, while those credits are not in legacy system, and the code 5020 series vouchers were issued. Payments in unconfirmed status and manually reconciled payments, credit balances as a result of withholding or advance tax. Okay, so for payments not captured in legacy or captured late, the taxpayer should support their claim position through the following documents for reconciliation. One, reconciliation request from the taxpayer. So you have to do a writing or write a letter to the Commissioner Domestic Taxes, and then attention to CTAMD division for payment captures. So when you have written the letter, that is not enough. Generate a PRN, that is a payment registration number or a payment slip for each transaction. So let me repeat myself on this one. You have to generate a payment slip or a payment registration number for each transaction. Don't lump them up because payments are per period. If it is VAT, it has to be per month. If it is income tax, again, it has to be per period. Or if it is withholding tax, again, it has to be per period. So letter from the remitting bank confirming the payments was made to KRA with a specific reference number, date, and amount remitted. This will assist finance to confirm with their records where applicable. Or attach also an RTGS, payment slips or bank advice slips. Let me come back to Roman number 3. On Roman number 3, if it is relating to prior years, I mean, many years have gone and you are not able to trace your bank advice slip, you are required to go back to your bankers and then they should be able to retrieve for you. And so the bank should be able to write a letter to us with a bank letterhead. That's what I'm trying to explain on Roman number 3. It has to come from the bank, and the bank committing or confirming that that payment you made on this date, it was this amount, it was towards this tax head, and that money actually your account was debited and the commissioner's account was credited with the same amount. So when that payment, when that letter comes, so you've written your letter, you've also put an PRN, and you've also attached this letter from the bank, or you have attached your RTGS and bank advice slips, then it will be confirmed. And as I had said earlier, the amount will be captured in your ledger. Next slide, please. Okay, so the taxpayer shall support their request by providing the following. So this is for purposes of return amendment. I'm sure most of us, you are aware about it. If you filed your return and maybe the figures, the amounts were not captured, or they were captured wrongly, or the figures are not also correct, then you are supposed to provide these documents for purposes of return amendment. 1, copies of returns received and acknowledged by KRA. During legacy period, we used to stamp, the returns were manual and they were actually in form of booklets. And so you could bring to KRA and they are stamped. There's a KRA stamp indicating the return has been received on these dates because of the due dates. For VAT by 20th and for PAYE by 9th of every month, of the following month. So copies of tax computations for the year or period affected. So when you're doing your final audited accounts, there is also tax computations, which is a summary of your final audited accounts. So those are the ones that you are required also to present to support the amending of that return. So copies of certified audited financial statements or accounts, as I've said, and then withholding certificates and schedules, if any, where payments were locked due to missing self-assessments, a copy of the original return will be needed for capturing. Migrated balances upon verification will be adjusted through migration workflow. So for the uncaptured, that was for about a return amendment. So the next slide is for, okay. So these are important updates. Okay, sorry. No, it's that's the next slide, please, before, after return amendment. We go back to the previous slide. Next. The next slide. Oh, next one now. Okay, thank you. So these are important updates that have been communicated to the taxpayers, or it's been communicated to you. Okay, part of the updates are the due date, I mean like the deadline, this window, you are supposed to report, to respond as a taxpayer within, by 31st December 2024. You are supposed to respond on those, on the migrated debt legacy balances. So you're supposed to come up and a deadline has been given to you so that you're able to respond to us before 31st December 2024. And that is why now we are waiting for you to come up, because after that, then the window will close for you. In the sense, closing means it will be deemed to be valid debt. Let me repeat myself again. The debts that will have been migrated on those legacy balances by 31st December of 2024, if you will not have responded as a taxpayer, then come January 2025, that balance which was migrated will be deemed to be valid. And therefore, it will be subjected to recovery measures, which will entail issuing you now with a demand notice, maybe 14 days demand notice, then 7 days, then immediate. And from there now, we again escalate it further for enforcement. So my appeal to all of us is that we quickly respond. If you have any additional information, then kindly furnish us with the same information so that we should be able to adjust. We are going to make adjustments, and we are calling it agreed adjustments. We have to agree with you as a taxpayer and ourselves. So give us the documents, because what we are saying here is with the our records is showing that you have this debt balance outstanding. But from your end, you're saying, no, Commissioner, this is not the correct position. This is the correct position. So give us those documents. Let's have a sitting. Let's discuss and agree. And then we make necessary agreed adjustments. And then we close the case. So I think from my presentation, I'm done. And I will open the floor for questions from our esteemed taxpayers, because we are here to facilitate you. We are here also to see to it that you are comfortable with the adjustments that we are going to make. And my other appeal is that kindly cooperate so that we amicably resolve this issue. Our objective here is to see to it that there are no balances outstanding in legacy system. We want to gracefully retire legacy system. And we all now are comfortable to operate from iTAX platform. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think now we'll take up the questions. I'm reading through the chat, but I'll go through the questions and then we'll try to respond. But if you can also unmute your mics and ask the questions, then we are here to facilitate you. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Rose, for the presentation. As you have indicated, we are now moving to the question and answer session. There are some questions that have come through the Q&A, others have come through the chat, and we also have others that have come through the KRA TV that is currently live streaming on YouTube. Maybe I can read some of the questions that have come through, even as you respond together with your team. There's somebody who is asking, our company reconciled demand claims for VAT and payee in October 2023, but they have never been offset after submitting all PRNs and bank slips and requested 2022 liability and withholding tax to be offset against our referred claims of 2017 to 2020. That is one of the questions from EP Communications.
Good morning. My name is Mary. I wish to respond to some of the questions. And the first one that you've given us is about pay as you earn not being VAT and pay as you earn not being posted in our system. I'm not sure if this relates to legacy period, because for January 2019, that means that what we are talking about is about a payment that should have been in iTAX. So maybe the taxpayer needs to clarify this. Which period are we talking about?
Okay, thank you, Mary. The taxpayer, the same taxpayers continue to say that their legacy debt has yet to is yet to be reconciled in November 2023 after they provided proof they were not granted for withholding tax from 2008 to 2010 and 2012. And they have provided the PIN in the chat box, I think so. I think we are going to pick the PIN, and I know we will be also providing an email where they can we can further engage. So I've taken note of the PIN for the taxpayer. Maybe we can further engage through the email that is provided at that PIN, Mary.
Okay, I can respond to that. Thank you. Any errors that are in our system so far, we are requesting that they get in touch with a team that is dealing with the data cleaning that has now been brought to 10th floor of JQuad Towers. Those are the people that will deal with any erroneous data in our system. So if EP communications have brought their records to the 10th floor of JQuad Towers, they can be sure that any legacy errors, which are even the failure for us to capture their withholding credit, will be dealt with. And the time frame is by December 2024. The only challenge we're having right now is that we need to have a workflow that addresses those issues in iTAX, which our IT department is working on. So I'm sure that if they still scan the documents to us, to DTD Legacy support, they will be addressed. I'm sure even someone will respond to them immediately that they have received the records. So once the workflow is provided, it will be dealt with. And that will now address all the errors that from the year 2008 going forward, if they had any credits out of that era that was in our system, meaning that their withholding credit was not captured, and it is captured and creates a credit, that credit will also be moved forward. I hope I've addressed that well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We will be posting the email that you provided, the DTD legal support, for further engagement
Yes.
from the taxpayer. Another question from Tony, who is asking, hello, what happens to balances that relate to previous ownership of a company?
Okay. Meaning the company was sold and it is in new hands. As long as the PIN, they continued their business with that PIN, the credit is still theirs if it's a credit. If it's a balance, because I'm sure by the time they were doing their final transactions, maybe they may have come to KRA to confirm that there's either a debit or a credit as a final balance. So if it will be a debit, then they've taken over the liability. If it will be a credit, they will be given the credit and the credit moved forward for them. As we are explaining that the credit will be taken to iTAX, they will be able to utilize it for both the legacy periods and iTAX if it crosses over to iTAX.
Okay, thank you.
And now what they should support themselves with maybe is the sales agreement from the owner who sold it to the new buyer. So if they give us the sale agreement, we shall be comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mary. Another question, if we have received an email from a debt enforcement agent from KRA, can we directly email them the documents rather than visiting the office?
Yes, you can first respond to whoever sent you the debt demand. That's a demand. That's a notification that you are owing us this much. That is why a debt officer would write to you. If you avail evidence to the contrary that maybe this demand is not valid because we had made a payment of an equal amount or more or less, and and that credit has never been posted in your system, in our system, for you to see it from your end, then the same officer can forward the same records to the team on 10th floor. That is if they are from the other TSOs, not LTO, MTO, and public sector division. Those ones will address the issues end to end from their location. But for the other TSOs in Nairobi, that is south of Nairobi, east of Nairobi, north of Nairobi, and west of Nairobi, all those records will still be brought to 10th floor JKUAT Towers, where the amendments will happen, or the capturing of the payments will be initiated from.
Okay. We have another question from Hassan. I think this is in relation to provision of documents. He's asking, what if our bank has closed down? He has talked about Imperial Bank.
Okay. The issue about Imperial Bank, I believe it was in receivership by Chase Bank, then taken over finally by SBM Bank. Since I know that most banks don't just delete their records, I am sure that if he presented himself over to SBM Bank, they'll go back to the system that Imperial Bank was using and provide the evidence that we need. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we cannot just sit and change records without evidence being availed to us. So if he goes to SBM Bank, I believe he can get the record. The bank can now write a letter, give us the details of when the payment was made, what tax head, and yeah, the payment date, the tax head, and the account that it hit into the KRA system. Because sometimes they will tell us that we paid, this was the payment we made, but they don't tell us which account in KRA it went to. And you see, we have many accounts, so they need to give us the exact account that the money went into to make it easier for the finance people to trace that payment. And now, after it has been traced and confirmed that it is in our system, then we can post it, and it will ultimately remove the debit that is in the system.
Okay, that's clear. Fitite is also asking that I have cases in the migrated balances where the payment is captured before the obligation. So how do we prove that payments are against those obligations?
Okay. Cases of where the payment was made before the obligation was inserted in, or whatever document was used to pay does not have the tax obligation, like it was meant to be for pay as you earn, but it went into VAT account, or it was meant to be an income tax payment, but it went into payee account. I believe that once you provide us with the documents that this payment was made, it was meant to be for VAT, but it went into income tax account. The commissioner will move the money within the accounts and credit you. But now that has to be accompanied with an explanation, a letter explaining that this money went into the wrong account. That one is not a problem. The commissioner will use his discretion and move the money within the accounts and credit the right account.
Okay, thank you. Then there's somebody who wanted to confirm that based on the fact that the letters were sent in June and July, if a taxpayer has not received any such letter on the legacy balances, is it right to assume that they have no legacy balances?
It is not right to assume, because you may assume that you don't have a balance, and we know that human is to error. But there are specific people who had no balances in their accounts. And I believe that one, the notification towards them being migrated under zero balances was done way back, I think in 2021. So if you received a notification telling you that you have been migrated, but your balance is at zero, that person can rest easy on all the tax heads. But if you think that you may have had a balance, but you did not receive a notification, I think the best way is to come and confirm with the team on 10th floor, or through your TSO. If you access your TSO faster than you can get to JQuat Towers, that will be excellent because you will know your exact position. Don't just assume.
Okay, thank you. Mercy Mwangi is asking, what if you have the payment slip, but you don't have the stamped legacy return? What happens?
If you have a payment slip and you have an unstamped return, but you have a payment slip, we will assume the date of the payment. And I want to specify that where it was a pay-as-you-earn payment, the stamped copy was also our return. If it was a VAT payment, the stamped copy by the bank was also our return. It was a payment slip which acted as well as a return. So if you have a payment slip for VAT or for pay as you earn, we shall assume the date of the payment to be the date of the return.
Okay, thank you. Someone else is asking whether you can give details on how repayments can be claimed or offset.
Yes. Once you are confirmed to be in a repayable position, as in you have a credit, whether that credit was out of an actual payment, which we internally call an overpayment, or whether that credit came out of a withholding credit, those credits are claimable by yourself. And the way to claim them is to first lodge a refund application so that at the point at which maybe you should be refunded and you decide that I don't want this payment, let it be a payment towards my future returns, then the money will sit in the system at the advance account. You see the ledger where there is advanced payment, that is where that money will sit. The minute you want to utilize that money, the TSO will facilitate you to now credit the period which you are filing for. Not just that credit, not just that payment that you want towards that particular tax head. Maybe if it's income tax, moving through with income tax. But even if you have another debit, or you are filing a pay-as-you-earn return and you realize that this money can pay for my pay-as-you-earn return, then you also claim. You can actually remove that money from the income tax and pay it through. So it is an amount that will move through the taxes. If it's you want to pay for VAT, you will still drop down from that account and move it to the VAT account, as long as you don't have any other debit within that account. If it's income tax, you do not have a debit within the income tax account. Yeah, so, but for what will come from legacy, any credits that will come from legacy, you will be assigned credit vouchers to now move your credits to first the legacy period, then to iTAX period. So when it hits the iTAX period, you'll still be able to move your credits within all the accounts.
Okay. Someone else has a concern. They are saying that they received a demand notice in the year 2014, and they went through the alternative dispute resolution process in June 2019, and then after contesting, it was agreed that they had zero liability, that is post the ADR process. But on the iTAX system, the liability continues to appear even after it was confirmed that they don't have a liability for that particular year, 2014. So what happens?
Thank you very much. You see, once you've gone through the dispute resolution, there is a decision that is usually made, and a notification is sent to the Commissioner of Income Tax now, I believe, for this case. So for that ADR, if the amount is still sitting under iTAX, the officers at the ADR were supposed to move or amend or vacate that assessment that was raised. If it hasn't happened, I want to assure the organization or the person who wrote on behalf of this organization that there is a team that is being formed so that they will address all the dispute issues, all the legal matters that have been made, but their amendments or vacations or any errors that relate to ADR have not been effected in our iTAX system. So maybe in the next 3 weeks or so, we shall have that team, and I believe they'll still be sitting at the CBC, but they will be able to effect. So maybe the organization needs to get in touch with Madam Rose on our floor, 9th floor, so that JQuat Tower, so that once the team is in place, then the issue can be addressed.
Thank you. Somebody is also saying that they have a payee and VAT obligation, but they are not able to file because it's in cancelled status.
My question would be, are they the ones who initiated the cancellation of the obligations and now they want to start paying for those obligations? Because if that is the issue, then the obligations have to be reinstated unless they are under the special table case where matters out of VAT issues that had issues and they were non-filers, that is, then they will have to go to the TSO so that they are facilitated to be able to file.
Okay, thank you.
The word there is, let them confirm if they were placed under special table. Then they approach the head of the TSO for them to be facilitated to be able to file.
Okay. Then somebody wants to know if there is a way on iTax they can be able to know about any legacy related taxes, or they have to wait for the communication through the letter. Whether on their side they can check on iTax, or they will have to get the communication through a letter.
Yes, they can see for themselves under the debt and enforcement tab on their end. They will be able to see the ledger of the balances that were brought on board, whether it was credits, the years that have credits and the years that have debits. But it's under the debt and enforcement tab. Once they click on it, there's a drop down. Then they'll be finding the legacy balances under the debt and enforcement tab.
Okay, there is another one, but I think you had addressed this, and there could be several people who have the same concerns. They're saying in a situation whereby you are not able to access the records, how do you prove that you filed the returns and made payments?
Okay, that is a bit tricky because from my end, as a tax person, I will see the transactions that you made for the years that you made any transaction. So here, if you filed a return, I will see the return. The issue would be, is there an error in that return, in the data that we captured? And if there is no error, then a corresponding payment came in. Can I see that payment? So the issue will then be, if the return is not there and there was payment, let me clarify that. If the return came in, we captured the return. It could have been rightly captured or wrongly captured, because you remember these were manual returns that were being captured by many people. So if the return has an error, we will address the error. If the return has a missing payment, that is the record they are supposed to avail to us, so that we now capture the payment. So if there is no return, there is no return from our end. If they never filed, they never filed. That's the thing. If they never filed, we don't have a return for that. So that year will be blank in our record. But if they filed, the issue would be, is the assessment right? If they paid, the issue will be, was the amount captured in the right year? Was the right amount captured? Though really, do we have a wrong amount captured for payment? Or If then there is no return and there is no payment, that period is blank from my record, unless they want to introduce it now, which is still okay, because if they are going to introduce the return now and it had a stamp for the period it was being brought in, then, and we are meant to amend consequent records, it can still be affected in our system.
Okay. There is also a concern whether there is an alternative email address, because it's like the one that is provided. I don't know whether the taxpayer is referring to the DTD legacy support, saying some of the emails are bouncing.
No, they shouldn't bounce. That's the email that we are receiving all the records through, the DTD legacy support. And I'm sure we are, unless maybe we can display it again, maybe there's an error in the way they are capturing it.
Okay, maybe we are going to drop it in the chat. Or
we are going to highlight it.
Or it could be an issue maybe of the attachments, maybe the size and some of the attachments.
Yeah, it could be maybe the attachments, but even then, I believe we have enough space to receive all the records. If it's a big batch, then they can break them down kidogo so that they come in as folders.
Okay. Somebody from LTO is saying they have an account manager. I want to believe they are referring to the compliance account manager. They are asking whether there is a separate account manager for debt who they have to follow with on matters legacy migration of that.
Yes, there is a different account manager as far as debt is concerned. So maybe they need to go through Pauline Oburu, who is in the debt unit. She's she's in the debt unit. So I believe there is an officer who handles the case in debt.
Okay, thank you. I hope the taxpayer has noted that.
Yeah, Pauline Oburu.
Okay, Pauline Oburu.
Yes.
Is based, where is she based?
And Westlands, the LTO offices.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody is asking, is KRA willing to share legacy statements with the taxpayers for reconciliation purposes?
Yes. If you are not certain that what is being presented under the legacy debt enforcement tab is not correct for you, then please walk into 10th floor, JQuat Towers. You will get a complete ledger or the statements that you want. And Mr. Paul Kamau's team.
Okay. Thank you. What happens to all withholding credits not captured and the taxpayer had already supplied the supporting documents before migration?
If we still have the records, I believe when he says he forwarded the records, he may have forwarded the records to the team that was at Wilson. I need a confirmation about that. But even if the records were sent to a TSO and he follows up with that TSO, the records will still be forwarded to the team and on 10th floor JQuat Towers, who will now facilitate the capturing of that withholding. It may be 1 year, it may be more than 1 year. It doesn't matter, as long as he has copies of those records, he or she will still be facilitated by the team under Paul Kamau.
Okay. Somebody is asking, what happens to a taxpayer who disagrees with the debit balances migrated, but at the same time, they do not have the documents where some are of 2000, the year 2000, 2006, and again, one is legally required by law to hold documents for a period of 5 years?
As the presentation was being done by Rose, I want first also to clarify that we are not raising any assessment. We are just moving what is in our system into iTAX. So the issue of the 5-year rule of holding records in this case does not apply because we are not raising any assessments for those periods. We are just moving what is sitting in our legacy account into iTax. So the prudent thing would be if they can avail those records, because if they dispute, then they need to prove to us why they are disputing the balance that is available. So then if they can get some of those records, at least they will be guided. And what can be amended, what can be vacated, what can be changed will be changed, but then it will also not be changed without a supporting document. That's the unfortunate thing, that any amendment, any change has to be supported by a record.
Okay, there's another you have already addressed on how to get the legacy balances in the debt enforcement tab. That one you have already addressed. Someone is also asking about the recording availability of this session, and I would want to say that it is being live streamed in our YouTube channel, KRA TV, so it will be available in the KRA YouTube channel, KRA TV. And we also encourage the taxpayers to subscribe to the channel so that to also get updated on such sensitizations. Most of the other questions are about the documents, which you already addressed in terms of being able to provide the documents past 5 years. There is a question here. We have been pursuing tax credit refund since 2022. We have been having communication breakdown as we submit supporting copies for legacy balance. We keep doing the same task for a long period. Kindly assist.
Okay. The beauty of today is that all the teams that are addressing refunds, the team that is addressing the debt legacy issues, we are all based at JQuat Towers. So if the refund has an issue, you will walk into 9th floor, see Madam Rose Polu. If you have an issue with the legacy records, you will walk into 10th floor and see Mr. Paul Kamau. So I want to assure the person who has asked the question that anything legacy, anything refunds will be addressed through or from the JQuat Towers. The team that sits with refunds debt validation is on 9th floor, and the same record can be presented to, if the need that is most current is the refund being processed, the person will walk in with the copies of those records. We address so that we facilitate for the refund to be paid, but then the same record will go to the team on 10th floor so that the errors in the legacy system will be addressed comprehensively.
Okay, thank you. Somebody is saying that they have submitted their response through DTD email and through the account manager as well. But even as you emphasize, it's good. They also said through the DTD legacy support, because they are saying they sent through DTD email, but I think it will also be important to say through the DTD legacy support, even as the account managers follow and escalate.
Yes, yes, that will be perfectly fine
Okay.
for us.
Somebody is asking, must we write a letter for reconciliation, or so long as you have the confirmation of payments, that's it?
The letter is quite necessary because you see, like in the previous question you had said, someone had said that maybe the amount went to the wrong tax code. So the letter specifies that this payment was towards this tax head for this month or for this installment. You see, that now gives credibility to the amount being posted to the right tax head and to the right period, so that there will be no other issue concerning the debit in that period now or tax head.
Okay, for the attendees who are asking about the slides and the repetition, the showing of the slides again, I repeat, we are streaming on KRA TV on YouTube, and the recording will be available there, so you can get any further. If you wanted to go back to any slide for more information, it will be there kindly. Wow, there is another one who is saying, what stops a taxpayer from waiting for the demand notice in January 2025 and then taking the legal route by arguing the statute of limitation?
That is within his rights. But then again, I want to stress that we are not raising any new assessments. What we are just doing is that we are bringing on board what is in our legacy record, which the taxpayer mostly would not see, to bring it onto iTAX so that he now sees his complete record. And if there are any corrections, any amendments, any gaps that are in it, then he assists us to bring a completeness to his legacy record, which will be on iTax.
Okay, somebody has indicated, I think it's in relation to the question about the obligations that they are in special table. And I think if they're in the special table, they would need to get in touch with their station for the issue to be sorted out, right?
Yes, yes.
For the credit utilization, when should we expect the credit voucher? Someone is asking that.
For the credit utilization, first and foremost, I want to believe that they have nothing outstanding, no debit. And even if they had a debit, still in legacy, that credit utilization will start from that period and then be utilized as we go on towards iTax. So any debits will be addressed first, those that are in legacy, by that credit. If it goes over and above what debits they are in legacy, then it will be brought onto iTax for the iTax periods and it will be utilized. Maybe the vouchers is what they can now approach their TSOs to know if they can start getting the credit vouchers. But the rider here was that credit will be checked first by the compliance team. If the compliance team gives a go ahead that now you can utilize your credit, they will start getting their credit vouchers. But you remember we spoke about people who had credits under code 5020, meaning those credits were coming from installments and they had never been utilized on iTax. So those ones can still approach their TSOs if the overpayment was coming from overpayments in legacy. They can still now start approaching their TSOs to be given, to be guided about the vouchers.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking, are the outstanding obligation in legacy subjected to interest and penalties in case you choose to pay now?
The outstanding, principal, that is, I want to believe he's asking about, it's not the obligation, it's about the principal outstanding in legacy.
Yes.
And as Rose explained, what was not migrated was any interest and penalty that was still arising out of non-payment of that principal tax. So meaning that if they want to pay, they can first pay on the entire principal, which is now on iTAX. But within the time that now the entire debit will be brought on board, then they hopefully, if there could be a continuation of the amnesty, which they never took into consideration, the commissioner may decide whether to extend or not. That one I cannot conclusively address, but I believe that if they wanted to pay their principal now, they can still be assisted to, actually they can now generate a PRN for themselves and pay.
Okay. Someone is saying where they filed a return erroneously and they don't have that copy of the return, will the reconciliation help or they will require to file a new return?
You see, the return that was filed is in our system already. But if it was an erroneous data capture and they have support, not the actual return, because they may not have the actual return, the return that covers the documents that you attach. But if they have the copies of those other documents apart from the return, a decision can be made whether to amend that return upon the records that they are providing. But if now we don't have the return and we don't have the records, that would be a tall order for the officer to make a decision about. Unless, of course, if this has a prior correspondence, they can at least trace some prior correspondence towards it. Then I believe the officers can make an informed decision whether to amend or to withhold what is there. That can also be triggered by the prior year's tax or the later year's tax, because an year in income tax is not a standalone. It can be affected by the prior year. It can be, and that year can, that prior period can actually trigger an effect on so many years later, consequent to where the record started. So if they can at least make an effort to avail some of the records, I believe the team can sit, make a decision. If they need to escalate the case to the commissioner, they will do it internally and a decision will be made.
Okay, someone else wants to know, in the case where now they disagree with the balances and they submit the evidence, that is the records, and they are received by KRA, is there anything else that the taxpayer is supposed to do, or upon delivering the records, that's it?
Upon delivering the records, I believe any amendment that will happen, any correction that will happen, we agreed that this record is now available on iTAX. So they will keep seeing the changes towards what they have brought for amendments or for vacation or for any amendment that will happen. And an amendment would mean we have now captured a payment. The payment will be available on iTAX system for them to see. We have adjusted the income. A data correction has happened. They will still be able to see it on the iTAX period. Now, we are saying in short that the legacy period will no longer be available to be seen by both officers and the taxpayers, because everything is being brought onto iTAX. So any record adjustment will happen on iTAX. Meaning then that when a change is made, when an approval has been made, and a change has been effected, they will be able to see it on iTAX. But then that doesn't mean that the taxpayer cannot follow up to know how far the case has gone, because the case will be obviously directed to a certain officer. When the officer is able to do the adjustments, then the taxpayer will be able to see. If it takes too long, it means then he can walk in again to 10th floor under Paul Kamau's team. He will be guided by Mr. Paul Kamau.
Okay, thank you. There are also concerns on the resolution of the workflow issue. Some taxpayers were asking whether there is a timeline when they expect it to be resolved so that the proof or the documents will be looked into, the proof provided.
Yes, I want to assure them that our iTAX team is really working hard towards providing us with the workflow. So once it's on board, I'm sure they will start seeing changes, and especially for those ones who had brought in their records from to Wilson, and the records are still with us, they will start seeing the changes that will be happening once the workflow is provided. So it's our prayer that it will not take long. Once that is done, at least we'll have started working on those records before December.
Okay. Please address the required process for clearing Section 42 Task Force Data Capture Project that started in 2018 and has not been completed.
The Section 42 issues were only two. One, you either carried a credit into iTAX, and that credit had not been verified that this is the credit. But what I've seen is that for people whose credit was validated by the Section 42 team, and the outcome was that those credits were valid. I know some of them were captured. I know also other teams, the other taxpayers went through the ADR, and a decision was made that they can utilize their credit. So unless the records towards that claim of that credit that they had carried forward under Section 42 has never been validated, then we would have a problem there. But where it has been validated, I believe I keep seeing correspondence towards that credit is valid, so it can be captured again under iTAX. So I think that one just needs a follow-up with the team on 9th floor of Jaguar Towers.
Okay. Someone is also asking, what if you had credits, then closed the PIN or opened a new company? Where do the credits go? And can they be transferred to the new PIN and utilized there?
That is a process. Because if you have closed your PIN, that means that then that credit was closed under that PIN. But if you really needed that credit to be moved to another PIN, it is still okay, because maybe what would happen is that the PIN that you closed can be activated. The credit moved from that PIN to the new PIN that you acquired. But then that means that you will have to write to the commissioner, because that's a PIN-to-PIN credit transfer. The taxpayer needs to write to the commissioner so as to be allowed to utilize that credit from the old PIN, in quotes, the old if that request is made.
Okay, then someone is asking, if you bring forward the legacy balances in January 2025 and the raised queries, that is the outstanding balances, remain unresolved, will those balances impact the TCC application in 2025?
The decision that was made is that in this period that the reconciliation has not happened, in this current period up to December 2024, you cannot be denied a TCC. But if the issue is still unresolved in 2025, assuming, I believe that the commissioner will give a decision based on what has not been addressed. So a TCC issue cannot be rejected because a reconciliation has not happened.
Okay. There's someone who has raised an issue in relation to iTAX, and they have provided the PID, that is courier. I think we have noted the PID. We are going to communicate through their email, because I think this is different. It is an iTAX issue about the returns that is not affected by the legacy migration.
I would attempt to address that by directing it this way. If it's an amendment issue, an amendment, assuming the taxpayer in the iTAX period had a decision about an assessment where the assessment was meant to be amended. I think I said there is a team that is being put in place to sit at the CBC who will be dealing with all the approved amendments so that they now effect that amendment, the change in the system. So it was towards an ADR, a legal issue, that is, a decision was taken, an amendment, a decision to lower maybe the tax payable was made, and that assessment has never been vacated or amended under iTAX. The team is coming on board. So now that I don't know his specific issue, but if it was a return that had an amendment issue, I believe what I said is that in about 3 weeks' time, the team will be in place.
Maybe I can, now that I can mention, it's an issue of the person had employment income, and then they filed a return. They moved from that employer, and they are still getting that they have penalties and interest relating to that period, 2018, 2015 also, and they feel that the penalties have not yet been addressed, yet they only had the employment income.
For employment income, where the employee is the one being affected, because maybe for 2015, let me address the 2015. 2015, the issue would be that some payments were made on legacy. The other payments were made on iTAX. So the return will never balance at that point. But there was a general kind of decision that if the taxpayer needed a TCC, it should not be denied because of that issue where the two systems were not reading one another. So the return, the taxpayer's return, the pay-as-you-earn return has never balanced. But if the person can take an initiative, the company would have made a request to our finance team so that now they confirm that these payments came under legacy and these other ones came under iTAX. And then there was a way they were balancing it off by bringing those payments that were on legacy into iTAX so that now the return balances from end to end, from January to December for the employees. If the return for the employer balances on all the payments, then equally the return for the employee would have balanced. So I think if the employer still exists, maybe they can approach KRA finance team, and then they will see if they can now work reconcile that return. Once the reconciliation is done, the employee will automatically have no interest and penalty because the pay as you earn will have been posted and it will now reflect in their PIN.
Okay. Then there is someone who has a concern that they paid installment tax of 10.8 million on the legacy system for the financial year 2014-2015, but the same has never been updated, and they have continued to accrue interest. So, and they are not receiving a TCC because of the same. So they are wondering what they can do because they have visited the TSO and Wilson, and they have not been able to be supported. So they are concerned about the accumulation of interest, and also the fact that they are not able to get the TCC.
That is easy. They just need to walk in to Paul Kamau's office with the payments that are not captured. They will initiate through our internal workflow for that payment to be captured. The validation of that payment by the finance team will then mean that the amounts will be captured. But now, where is the return? Is the return on legacy or is it on iTAX? But whichever platform it is on, it will still be captured. And once it's captured, then the interest, if the payments were made on time, they will also go ahead and remove the erroneous interest and penalty internally. But then I said that should not be a reason for them to be denied a TCC, as long as they can show proof at the TSO that these payments were made and we have no outstanding balance, principal balance for that year. So I think the point to note here is that they walk into Kamau's office with the proof of payment and a letter requesting for the reconciliation, then the amounts will be captured.
Okay, then somebody wants to confirm whether the debt managers for LTO taxpayers have been devolved. He's saying that there are some who have received that communication that the debt managers for LTO have been devolved. So they are just confirming whether they have to come to Nairobi or the LTO debt managers have been devolved to the regions.
I don't think the debt managers have devolved for LTO. So they can write to pauline.oburu at kra.go.ke.
Okay, thank you. As we almost bring it to a close
They
now.
can still, 1 minute, they can still get through. The southern region can go to LTO. We have an LTO under southern region, and we have an LTO at the western region. So if they are in those regions, they can approach the team there to forward the records to Pauline.
Okay, as I pick one or two questions also from the KRA TV side, maybe you can also drop the email, the TTD Legacy support email on the chat to everyone. And then there is somebody who is asking, how can one know the basis for the legacy balances on how they are coming about so that one can be able to respond accordingly? I would want to understand how the balance is coming about.
Okay, I will go back a bit because the legacy balances are out of what was filed by the taxpayer. I think Rose explained that those were periods where returns were brought manually. A team was capturing what the taxpayer has brought as a return. And then another team that was working in cash office was capturing the payments towards the years that or the returns that had been brought. So the legacy period then means it's not just from 1992. It is for as long as you are a taxpayer and you are filing returns with income tax department. And for that, the easiest thing for the person to understand, and that's why I'm saying the major things that will happen with legacy is that you are either confirming that your assessment is right or wrong. You are either confirming that what you paid was well captured or not. Those are the only two issues. Because if you brought in a return, we captured that return. If you made a payment, we may have captured or not captured that payment. So those are the only major issues. So any transaction that happened in those periods means that there was a debit for the return and there was a credit for the payment, or there was a credit out of withholding that was captured. So those are the transactions that the taxpayer will see. It's an effect of you giving us a return and an effect of us having received the payment, or you paying through the bank and that bank that payment not reflecting on our system. So I would still insist that if you are not comfortable with what you are seeing on iTAX, please walk in to 10th floor, JQuat Towers, so that now you can be guided what to bring, what to address, because if like it's a wrong capture of a return, then you need to address the erroneous data there. If it's a payment that is missing, you need to address that this payment is still not showing. So then the payment will be captured. And I believe that was the easiest period where the record should have been complete. And even now, it doesn't mean that it will not be completed, because the team is still in place to effect changes or corrections or capturing of payments, or even if it's a return that you feel this return had it been captured, then my losses would have been carried forward. The team is still there to facilitate you with that process.
Okay, and finally, also from the KRA TV side, there are two people who are asking about the payments. Now that the balances are only for the return balances, how about now the credits or the payments? How are they going to be moved and reconciled together?
Where there is a credit, the credit is available. I believe you can see it on iTAX. Whether it's a VAT credit, this particular month, I was in a credit position as a taxpayer filing for VAT. I filed a credit return. It is available. You can see it. Where there is a debit, because the return was filed, whichever tax head it was filed, but the payment is not available, that's where you have a debit. Or there was another payment, that is when you see a debit. But where a credit was availed, even where the taxpayer under income tax, the income tax head, meaning the income tax, has a credit out of an overpayment. And an overpayment, let me stress, is where you paid installments and the balance of tax, and there is an overpayment in that year, it is available. Where there is a credit because of withholding was more than the actual payment, so resulting in a credit out of a withholding, you still see that credit. The credit is available, you can see it. The debit is available, you can see it. So I would request that maybe they open the tab under debt and enforcement and at least familiarize themselves with that legacy ledger. Because for a period that is in credit, you can see the credit. For a period that is in debit, you can see the debit. Meaning then that if I have more credit in that legacy ledger and I want to utilize that credit to pay other periods in iTAX, that should happen. The taxpayer will be facilitated to do that. Where now the overall is a debit, then you will pay for the outstanding debit.
Or finally, why were withholding taxes and credit balances brought forward ignored when transferring from legacy to iTAX? Someone is concerned about the withholding taxes.
No, I said the withholding taxes have not been ignored because where you have done what you have claimed for that withholding in a return, and I would want to say that this is specifically addressing the income tax returns. What used to happen when you file your return, all credits are taken into consideration, including advance tax, where you had paid advance tax for your vehicles. It was all taken into consideration when the return was being processed. So if the resultant credit was out of a withholding, that credit is still available for you. If the resultant credit was out of an overpayment, it is still available. So I wouldn't say that there is withholding credit was ignored, because if you can still prove, and if it's still in our record, then it will be moved. It is your credit. You'll be able to move your credit to the period that you want to pay. Or if that credit is too much, you can still request for a refund of that credit, which we used to process under the manual processing of a refund. But now you will still, the system will allow you to apply for it, but upon the point at which you want to be, it is processed and you want to be paid, you can now opt whether to use it to set off taxes in future or a current debit that is in your system.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mary.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
For taking us through that Q&A and responding to all the questions. Thank you very much. I know the email is going to be posted shortly so that the taxpayers can continue sending the documents or any concerns that they need for support. Thank you very much. I want to hand it over to Madam May for the closing remarks. Welcome so much, Madam May.
Asante sana, Joseph. A big thank you to our team from the Corporate Taxpayers Account Management Division. Rose Colum, you have done a very clear and articulate presentation, which I believe the taxpayers have gained valuable insights from. As well, Mary Madenge, you have also done a very good job of responding to the issues that have arisen from this forum. And I believe it has all been done to the benefit of our taxpayers, so that going forward, they will know what to do. And given the time that is remaining, the days are running very fast. It's important that they hasten their feet and see to it that they follow up and see to it that by December 2024, all matters have been addressed and rested. I also want to give a big thank you to our sign language interpreter. Doreen, you've done also a very good job of giving a sign language interpretation to the presentation that was being made today. We appreciate you. We also appreciate our taxpayers for being very patient with us. At the start of the forum, we had some technical hitches, but you bore with us, and eventually we have had a smooth sailing. We are glad that you've kept tuned and that you've been interactive with us, you've engaged with us, and that demonstrates that there was value addition at the end of this session. We are also going to give a very big thank you to the taxpayer education team who were working behind the scenes to see to it that this session is up and running and is well coordinated. Asanteni sana. We now want to give just a brief session to some 2 minutes to Rose on behalf of the Corporate Taxpayer Account Management Division. Give your parting shot to the taxpayers, and then we'll have a closing prayer by one of our very own, Joseph Mashaga. And then taxpayers, you should be ready to leave at your own pleasure and have a fruitful afternoon on this beautiful Wednesday. Rose, please take the stage, followed by Joseph. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, May. We really, really appreciate the support we have received from the entire team. So on behalf of CTMD, we are so grateful that you have supported us by creating this forum. And I hope we've been able to deliver on that particular mandate in sensitizing our taxpayers. So thank you so much, our taxpayers. Thank you so much, my colleagues, for the support. And we look forward to retiring legacy system gracefully. So let's all support each other. My appeal to taxpayers, please cooperate, bring the documents that are required. Let us close, retire legacy system gracefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Let us have the closing prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we are before your presence this afternoon with a lot of thanksgiving unto you for making this sensitization forum a success. Thank you for being with us from the beginning up to the end. Pray even the issue that we've discussed here, that you're going to help us with the wisdom and the knowledge to handle them satisfactorily, and that you may help each and every one of us as we deliver in our different mandates, both from KRA and also the taxpayers. We commit the rest of the day unto your able hands, that you may be with us, watch over us, even as we continue with the activities of the day. We thank you, Father, and we honor you. In the mighty name of Jesus, we do pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Amen. Thank you too.
Thank you. We will end with the address to which taxpayers can post their documents or any concerns that they have, so that we ensure there's a seamless management of raising issues. Please do not leave quickly. Let us just have that address posted, and then you can be free to leave. Asanteni sana. Good afternoon to all.